Hello and welcome back to the Let's Glow Show. It's Amanda Sweet, the Creative Fairy Godmother, and we are back with another amazing episode with a creative entrepreneur based in Michigan. This woman is absolutely amazing. She knew me way back when and trusted me and thrusted me into event planning. Miss Andrea Corp, the founder of Bloomified. Welcome.
Woo, thank you. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to be here. And I don't know if you know this, but this is my very first podcast ever.
I'm so honored. Well, I don't know if you know this, but you and Ursula were like the very first people that I didn't know that trusted me to host an event for them. So we're like, this is like full circle moment right here.
I can't tell you how often I think how fortunate I am to know you and to have walked into Bamboo and re-met you like, oh my God, Amanda, you're here. Yeah.
It was aligned.
It's a love fest for sure.
I know. We'll get into the love fest because the fashion, like when you walk in, I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Because, I go all out for work because it's every day. Like, I want to represent myself. And some people look at me a little weird. Like, yesterday I was wearing like a yellow hat and it was like very structured. But then when you walk in, I'm like, she gets it. She gets it.
I get it. When I see you, oh my gosh. I'm always like, you look fabulous. Yeah, your style is, yeah.
Okay. Tell the beautiful people who you are and what you're doing, because I'm really excited about what you're building and the community that you're building it for.
I'm really excited. I'm in the middle of so many things right now. So, I am in the middle of, let's see, where do I start? I'm the founder of Bloomified, which is an online community for women midlife and beyond. It started as a 6-week course that I was going to put out there. I had always dreamed of doing an online course for a long time. I'm like, someday I want to do an online course. And I could say so many things about how this started, but we'll go back to how I got into the aging part, but I put it out there. I called the course Finding Magic for Midlife. It was a six-week course. I just put it out to my social media people and I had a lot of interest. I had 14 people just sign up just from putting a couple posts out. Yeah. And from there, it turned into a community. I thought this needs to be big, this needs to slowly evolve and just have this community connection. So I'm currently just about to launch the 3rd session for the community. And I'm also at the same time opening up a brick and mortar Bloomified. So, and there's a whole bunch of things going on there.
Tell me, because I didn't know about the brick and mortar until recently. You had like replied to something and I was like, you're having a brick and mortar too? Tell me a little bit about that. What's that going to look like?
I know. I was like, what? I didn't tell you, Amanda. This is crazy. So what it's going to look like? Well, it's in Royal Oak. I found the cutest space that didn't need a big build out. It was like all of the energy from the universe aligned to take me to this space. It will be part workshops. It's going to be all what Bloomified is, which is a pro-aging community. That's the niche, pro-aging, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So it'll be part doing like workshops and meetings and things that I do in the community, like self-discovery and empowerment type situations. The other part of the space is going to be retail, which I'm super excited about. I have zero experience with it, but I'm so excited about it. So I'll be selling products. Pardon me?
I said, you know who to call. I got some retail experience.
Oh, okay. We've got to go. I've got to take you there and have coffee and chat soon. Yeah. So the 3rd element, so there's retail, discovery workshops, and then I'm going to rent out the space to fellow entrepreneurs, creatives, educators who are like kind of aligned with the niche when it's not in use.
Oh my gosh, I love it. this is amazing. We need you. We need you so much. Especially when it comes to the niche and the audience that you're talking to, where, all of us hopefully are lucky enough to age, but
Yeah.
obviously media villainizes and pushes out and outcasts specifically women when it comes to aging. And I caught myself recently, it was like, not recently, but I'm 34 years old. I believe I have a lot of life to go. And
Mhm.
I've always been very focused on body positivity and embracing your body and the way it looks. But I've been noticing more grays and more wrinkles. And I caught myself in the mirror, just kind of like, the thing,
Yeah, yeah, for
and
sure.
questioning, like, my body's changing. I'm aging. I talk about this a lot on the Let's Glow show. Like, my body is changing. It's reacting aggressively to the foods that I'm eating. And so I'm
Mm.
making a huge shift. But I understand that I have some negative thoughts and feelings about aging. And then on the other side, I'm like, I can't wait to be 45. I can't wait to like hit menopause and see what that looks like and feels like and become that version of me. But I just want to talk about it a little bit because I don't think there's enough public conversation about just embracing aging, especially for women.
Yes. Yeah, there's really not. And it's so funny that you say, you're both not wanting to age, and also so excited for that time where you're older and going through menopause. Um, for me, when I was in my 30s, I was also in my 30s, and I used to back then, I'm 52 now, but back then I would go into CVS and like the magazine racks, and there would be a magazine. It was called More, and it was dedicated to women, older women. And I was just fascinated by it. And I would pick it up and like just look through it. And I thought to myself, you know what? I am not going to get this magazine until I'm 40. It's going to be something I look forward to. And I just couldn't wait. I was so excited and inspired by these older women. And so I have this fascination with being older.
Yes.
Yeah, I started a whole Pinterest board about consciously and creatively aging. And it's a whole thing. I mean,
Have you
yeah.
always been this way, or did it take work to get this way? Like, as a young woman, as like 20 something, like I see a lot of 21, 27. I see a lot of like 29-year-olds being like, oh my God, my life is over. I'm turning 30. And I'm like, girl, it gets better. I
Yeah.
promise it gets better. Like, you're in your 20s, but you're smarter. Like, and you have more resources. So have you always been this fascinated with aging, or is it like a new phenomenon for you?
I think that it was in my 30s, like late 30s, when the fascination started. But I have never been, I have young daughters and their friends, and I hear people on social media about, oh, I'm 25 or 30. Oh my gosh. I have never been sad about getting older. I've always been kind of proud every year. I've never, before my like 30s, when I started this fascination, I never really thought too much about it, but I certainly didn't think too much about it.
Yes.
At the same time, it's not like I don't have insecurities, or it's not like I don't, haven't bought into this cultural narrative and internalized ageism that we all kind of have.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that point. And it brings up a memory. In my last role, I did a lot of work in the DE&I space, and there was a woman, and her name is escaping me, but I'm seeing her beautiful round face with her white hair and the little bob. She was beautiful, but she was a diversity, equity, and inclusion coach talking about ageism constantly. And so, especially when in the workforce, when it comes to hiring, best practices, team culture, equity, she was constantly talking about how we need this conversation to happen between the ages so that the wisdom can get passed on and passed up and down, because it goes both ways. And until, like, especially at Bamboo, I feel like Bamboo is a really special place because we have 21-year-olds, we have students, we have younger people, and then we also have people that are at the top of their game, and we have people that are retired and doing their second careers and like living out their passion projects. So it's this beautiful melding pot, but they kind of don't engage with each other, which bothers me.
Yes. You keep saying things that I have 10 responses. Like there's so much, and I'm going to forget half of it, but you're so right. One of the things I'm going to do at the Bloomified in-person space is, I think, intergenerational meetings are so important, or friendships and relationships are so important. For so long, okay, older women look at younger women and say, oh, what did they know? They don't have the experience that I do. Or the younger women look at the older women and say, oh, they're old. They don't know anything, like they're old. So, but we have like you said, we have so much wisdom to gain from each other. So I have so many young friends and old friends. I have them all. I feel very age fluid, which is something that people talk about too. So I'm gonna have intergenerational like supper clubs or something like that, so that we can gain. The young women have something to share with us, and we have wisdom to share back. So like we have so much to teach each other. Yeah. It's powerful.
So powerful. And I feel like it is lost on specifically Americans, but this like American European style, like as someone who's Filipino, like in the Philippines, the grandparents live with you, the kids, the future kids, the in-laws, like it's a communal household. And I lived in a very similar situation. So it was like the four of us, my parents and my mom's parents, and then some of her cousins. And I've talked about this before. Like my mom is a very philanthropic person in her own way. And she would house people that were new to the States. So like I've lived with people in their 70s, 80s. I lived with people that were in their 30s when I was in my 10s and lower, and everything in between. And the things that you learn from people, like, and the things that you can teach are just so beautiful, but it's lost on us because we all need to separate and we all need to classify. It feels like classify ourselves.
Yes, that's so true. You're lucky. You're so fortunate to have had that experience. I don't have that at all. I grew up in a very small, just my sister and I and my parents. We're from England originally, and then Canada, and then here. We're very worldly. But so I wasn't even around my grandparents or older people that much. However, I have to give a shout out to my grandma Rose. Both my grandmas were amazing, but my grandma Rose lived to be 103 years old. So we did go back, and actually I went back for her 100th birthday party, which was so cool. And she lived to be 103, and she was by her, like she took care of herself. She lived with nobody. She took care of herself. She only had the bathroom and her bedroom were up these steep stairs in her house that she went every day. Yeah, it's the whole thing. And I'm wearing her earrings today.
Oh, Grandma Rose, shout out. So my great grandma also lived to 103. That was my bubby, as we called her, Mary Cantor. She left kicking and screaming. She was the most charismatic, effervescent person that I had ever met. Like she could walk into a room and make everybody fall in love with her. And like she did that for forever. And so like in her 90s, she got knee replacements. And there was like an article that went out. I think she was like 95 and she got spinal surgery. And they wrote an article about it because most doctors would turn people at that age range away, because what is the point? What is the point? They have how many more years to live? Like they probably won't make it through, whatever the case may be. But in the article, the doctor said, like, Mary Cantor, this woman is so full of life that we're willing to take and make this investment into her, even though she's 95 years old, because we believe that she's gonna make it worthwhile and she's gonna get out there. And she was independent. She lived on her own. She didn't drive, but she was born in 1910. Like imagine being born in 1910 and then coming up to the 2010s and like, or whatever whenever she passed away, it was definitely in the 2000s. So like seeing cars and TVs and still being able to relate and connect and share and grow and be willing to learn about the new iterations of the world. Like I feel so like blessed to have had spent all the way up to my early 20s with her, because she was just like, I just could ask her any question and she would just like this, just spit it out and just tell. And I'm like, how do you live forever? She's like, fried ice cream and good friends. And I'm like, okay, I could do that.
That sounds great. Yeah. Oh, wow. And so is that the grandma you lived with? You grew up?
No. So that was my dad's grandmother, but she lived relatively close by. She lived in West Virginia for a long time and then ended up moving over here to Michigan. But the grandma that I lived with was my Lola, my mom's mom, Makaria Manlangi. She was like, she came when my little sister, she came to the States when my little sister was like just born. So I saw her basically from like 4 until she passed, which was really beautiful. She taught me how to cook. She was constantly like, you need to get an education. You need to do this. And telling me stories about the Philippines and her kids, because there's 9 of them, but they all lived in the Philippines. So feel very blessed to have experienced all of my grandparents, because not everybody gets that opportunity, but like it makes me excited to see what's possible. You know, it's like, she lived to be 103 and she had all of these, you know, and there's so many ands, you know.
Well, when you were talking about her, I was thinking you definitely have her genes, because you also walk into a room and light it up and everyone loves you and you're just fabulous. So you've got those genes. Like let's like keep on with those genes and for the longevity.
Exactly. So I'm kind of curious, like, what is your audience saying? Like, are they saying like, oh my gosh, we've been dying for something like this, or I'm struggling with this? Like, where are they coming in and how are they reacting to Bloomified?
Yeah, I have had since I put it out there the first time, people come up to me and talk about it with me all of the time. They were craving community and connection. I think mostly they were craving somebody to talk about all of these, especially like midlife. Like we just kind of jumped to the older ages, but this midlife age where you're going through this whole transition period, there's so many changes that happen and so much to talk about. And it helps to have somebody, you know, affirmation with other people, like, okay, yeah, you're feeling that too. And like, wow, I didn't know this was going to happen. Nobody talked about the hair. I always bring up the hair because for me, pardon?
Let's talk about the hair. What happens with the hair?
Well, that's just an example of something that I never really thought about happening. You know, everyone talks about the wrinkles all of the time. And for me, and like, I don't really care about the wrinkles for whatever reason, but the hair changes. Your hair, it's not like I've had this thick, luscious hair my whole life anyways. It's always been kind of thin, but all of a sudden it just changed and it was dead. And I can hardly do anything with it. It's crazy. But so things like that, it's just getting that affirmation and being like, oh my God, you go through that too. And here's the supplements I'm taking, or here's the things, you know, it's very helpful to have people that are in the same stage.
Yeah. I'm wondering how you handled the hair situation, because I'm seeing a lot more of my personal friends and my peers, which are now all in their 30s, starting to express this discussion about hair. And that's part of the reason why I chopped my hair off. And I remember when, like, right before I chopped it off, I was in a very stressful, like, before I got to Bamboo, I was a very like micromanaging stressful job. And with the pandemic, my hair was like falling out in chunks. And like, yes. And after I left that job, my hair started growing back, but I just needed to like reset. But when I chopped it off, couple things happened. So one, I texted my mom and I love her to death. And she's just, in this particular moment, she's like a victim of like big media. She was like, men aren't going to like it. And I was like, first of all, I'm married. I don't care what other men think. Second of all, my husband likes it. And I think it looked good. So I had to like justify the decision. She was like, but men like long hair. And I was like, and the other side of that, I was like, before I cut it off, I like went to the bob and I was like, is this gonna make me look old? Like that was the thought. Like if I go short, is it gonna take away my youth or like whatever the case may be? And now that it's short, it's much healthier. I can manage it a lot better. I'm seeing all my grays come in, which my bubby, my dad's mom, has taught me that is like every gray hair is earned, earned to be loved. So now I have a lot more of a comfortable relationship with the short hair, but there was definitely a moment where I'm like, I had to sit down my husband. I remember it was in the middle of the pandemic and I sat him down and he was like, what's going on? I was like, I need to talk to you. And he was like, what do you need to talk to me about? I was like, and I couldn't get it out. I remember crying. He was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I think I'm losing my hair. And like, feel about it. But I was like, I think I'm losing my hair. Like, what would happen? Would you like still love me? I remember like, would you still love me if I was bald? You know? And I have other friends who are affected by alopecia. And so, you know, I was going through that experience with he was like, okay, if your hair's falling out, like that doesn't change who you are. But I remember like, I need to talk to my husband about it. Is he going to still love me? Like, am I still going to be beautiful to him? Because, you know, that's the thought that my mom has had that has come down to me. But now, like, since cutting it off, and I will say, when my mom saw me for the first time with the short hair, she's like, do you think you're some kind of Filipino diva on TV? And I was like, yes, I do. Because you won't say you like it because you're brainwashed. But I was like, yeah, I do. And thank you for the compliment.
I was going to say that is a compliment, right? That was her way of like saying, oh, wow, like diva, like that's awesome.
Who do you think you are? I'm like, yes, I am.
Yeah. There's so many things, again, you just said in there that I want to touch on. But first of all, it's interesting that your mom was brought up this way. I was brought up this way too. And I think we all have this in us. It's like we are here to please men. Like we are here to look good and like delightful or whatever for men, and not for men first and then us. But like that is in us. That is in us. Yeah, I wanted to say more about that. Maybe I'll come back.
Real, but I'm curious what that experience was like for you when the hair changes started happening. Like, how did you deal with that?
I just felt I never realized how important hair was. Honestly, I've always had short hair because I've never had thick, luscious, long hair. I've always been a short hair girl. It's my personality. It's my hair. So it's not like that changed very much, but just, it just limp. I can't do anything. And it took me forever to get ready in the morning. I'm a pretty quick getting ready in the morning person. All of a sudden I sat there and like tried to do everything with my hair. And I felt bad about myself. It changes the way I felt every day. It seems ridiculous, but I had this conversation with myself like, wow, I never realized hair was such an important thing to me, but apparently it is. And it's changed now. So I'm just going to have to work with it.
Yeah.
And it's just another thing in the lineup of things, changes that you're going through. And you go through this period. I wrote about it once. It's like this cycle of like, what can I swear on here? Okay. It's like, what the fuck is the first thing. And then like, okay, I'm going to try to work with it. And then, okay, I got this. And then, it's like resisting it, but then coming to terms with it and embracing it. And then something else happens. And you just have to keep going through that cycle of all the changes, physical and mostly physical with that part. And then there's the whole emotional.
What can women that are approaching that age like do to mentally prepare themselves? Like, I'm hoping to live into my hundreds and somethings, like, and I hear a lot that menopause is like women's second or third puberty, where, they're kind of transitioning into their midlife, as you would say. So like because obviously you're getting a lot of like on the ground feedback and data, like supplements and exercise. Like what are women saying to advise younger women who are approaching?
Yeah, it is definitely a coming of age season. And it just like puberty, the hormones are all changing again. Things are flipping out again, just like when we got our periods when we were 13 or however old. What are people saying? Well, I think the biggest one, because it is a roller coaster ride. It's not like you just, okay, I dealt with menopause and now things are great. My hormones have leveled out. It's a roller coaster. You go through a really hard period, I must say, and then you come back again. And I think the biggest thing is to get comfortable in the stage of not feeling great, not trying to rush through it to like the next thing, not trying to resist it, but instead embracing it. And somebody in the community was going through a hard time just the other day. And I reminded them about this quote that I love. It's like a meme. I think it's Emily McDowell. And she said, and it's something about when you find yourself in this position of, not quite there, but not here, God, I wish I had it in front of me, but you're in this bad way. Get comfortable there, get some comfy pillows and just hang out. The biggest thing is give yourself self-compassion. Stop. When you resist change, you're going to suffer. When you embrace it and go with the flow, it makes things easier.
I think that's so valuable all of our lives. Like I'm thinking about it, even more recently, I found out that I was pregnant and all these changes were happening. And now I'm kind of going on the other end of having a miscarriage and kind of my body going back to a state of non-pregnancy. Somebody said it the other day. It was really, really beautiful. It's like mothers at rest, where we're like taking a break, before the next baby comes, because we're still mothers. But like all of those changes, like hormonally, emotionally, like who am I as a person now? Like, does everything about me change? And even before I got pregnant, and I foresee this happening, like, I feel like as a woman, and I can only speak for my personal experience, but I feel like we are constantly in a cyclical state of change. We're in a 3-day menstrual cycle from the time we're like 13 or however old, 11 or so. We're constantly like making these rotations around our hormones, our body, we're changing and like embracing that. I feel like a lot of the discussions are about like supplement it to death, work through it. And all this it's a masculine energy. I saw something that like men are like the sun. They cycle daily, and women are like the moon and they cycle monthly, where it's like wax wane versus just coming up and coming down, coming up and coming down. But women are like the moon, where it's like sometimes we're full, sometimes we're gone, sometimes we're crescent. But I feel like we're always dealing with a constant amount of change. But I feel like the conversation is like, just power through it. As Christina Fair would say, our good mutual friend, the brute force. She's like, we're constantly trying to brute force through our cycles or whatever the case may be. So yeah, Christina's amazing.
I love her, and it's thanks to you that I met her, and she is a guest speaker on in Bloomified. Yeah, she's amazing. Love Christina, and thank you.
She's talking about her story, and there's so much power in what you and Christina and Miss Dana Braxton are doing. You ladies and ladies like you are setting the stage for women like us. Why am I emotional about this? Are now out of their like we grew up on social media. Our faces, our bodies are always on display, and we're constantly trying to look the part. And so when I had that moment where I was in the bathroom and just like touching my wrinkles and like my sunspots and seeing my grays and thinking, and I immediately was thinking about Instagram. And I'm like, are my
Mhm.
pictures going to be as good? Like, how am I going to make this transition? And then I meet people like you, or already have people like you in my life that are like, it's great.
Yes, 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 it is. It's not, I get emotional too, so easily. So when you're like, oh, I can't wait to have you in my intergenerational meetings. Um, yeah, I want to go back and touch on transitions or this nonlinear path in a minute, but it is
Yeah.
exhausting. Um, we're always trying to get to the finish line, and it's like something's wrong. I have to make it better. I have to finish. Like I have to, yeah. And the whole social media thing too is exhausting and hard. And I do believe in a healthy sense of vanity. That's a big thing for me. I think there is a healthy sense of vanity. It makes you feel, when you feel your best, and whatever that best is for you, when you walk around, you feel great out in the world and people treat you better. And so I do believe in a health, and plus it's fun. I love all of the like
Okay,
style.
so what's the line between healthy and unhealthy?
I think, yeah, what is the line? That's a good question. But I noticed that the women who have the hardest part with aging and all of the changes and not looking like this sexy young thing anymore is when that's all they had, when they didn't nurture or develop something underneath as a person. And like that is all they were there for, is just how they looked, and they didn't have anything underneath it, which is super sad, but they're going to have the hardest time with it. Yeah. Because once things start, it's like you change the, your idea of what sexy is. Because I wrote this poem or mantra, or kind of like a manifesto, if you will. And part of the thing I think about, because I like feeling sexy, and I want to feel sexy in whatever way that is for me till the day I die. And I want to go. So I wrote this whole thing, and I can send it to you later, but it's about like, I want to walk into the room and shine like a sexy senior spark plug, and with my wrinkles highlighted in glitter. Like, for me, that's not going to be everyone's, thing, but that's me with my healthy sense of vanity and how I want to sparkle and shine on a superficial physical level.
Sure.
But I know that I'm more than just my looks, and that's important. That makes aging easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's what confidence is. It's that, like, that you are trusting enough and believe in yourself enough to invest time and energy into your appearance, whether it be exercising and eating healthy, to like dressing your body in things that make you feel good rather than hiding. And I think just like embracing the self and enjoying the self is the sexiest thing, the most confident thing that you could do. And for the ladies and people out there that are, because I get this question a lot when I'm like on a panel or invited to speak, is like, can you teach us how to be confident? And I'm like, that is a very big ask. And I don't know how to actually like make a formula to say this plus this equals confidence. Like, that's not how confidence works. But I do think it's the exploration of, do I like glitter? And if I tried it, what would happen? And those like little moments of saying like, black is sexy. Wearing black makes me feel sexy. I'm going to wear black today so that I can feel sexy and see what happens. Like, those baby moments create confidence. Confidence is not given or taken or thrusted upon. Confidence is built and created. It's a muscle, just like happiness and just like diligence, just like anything else that you're going to do. It's not like you either have or you don't. That's not real, in my opinion. So those little things, like, I'm going to write a poem about what being sexy is like for
Yeah.
me. That's
Yeah.
building confidence, you know?
Yes.
So love that.
Oh, you are speaking my language here, because it is so important to know yourself. And before I even was in this aging genre, I did workshops before, and it's all about empowerment and self-esteem for women, but it was follow the shape of your soul. And my biggest, most foundational thing is you have to know yourself. Half the women out there do not know what makes them happy. They know what makes their husbands happy, what their kids happy, other people. Self-discovery and the inner work is a hugely important factor for all people and women, and to continue on when you're aging. And that's what we do in Bloomified, a lot of self-discovery exercises, because again, you are at a point where, and I talk about this a lot, how I looked in the mirror one day and I'm like, I am not connecting. All of a sudden, I am not connecting with this person. I don't feel like her anymore. But so it's like, I'm not the person I used to be, but I don't know who I'm becoming next. And there's a few things there, but there's a lot of self-discovery work needed, a lot of journaling, meditating, exercises, looking in. One of the exercises I do in Bloomified is this alter ego self. And like, who would you be if you were completely unapologetic and fearless? Like, who is that alter ego living inside you? Because now is the time. You are this age. Now is the time. If not now, when? Get in touch with that person who's in you and fly, like, move towards some sort of liberation there.
I love alter ego exercise. That's beautiful, because it made me think. And I'm like, how far away am I from that alter ego? I'm like, I'm not that far away. What's the gap? Why am I holding back? And I have a new mentor who I love to death. Her name is Georgette Applewhite. And just yesterday, we had a call and she was grilling me. She was like, I see you. We see you. Why do you not see you for who you are? And she's like, whatever that gap is, we need to close it, you know? And that's immediately what I thought about, was that alter ego. And I'm like, I am that alter ego when I'm on stage, when I'm performing, when I'm doing the Let's Glow show. Like,
Right.
why am I any different when the camera turns off? Or
Right.
when I get in my car after the event ends and take my makeup off? Like, why is that not, not that they're very different, but
Yeah.
I'm living in the present, and then I'm like living in my head,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I live in my head a lot. I get that.
Yeah. But I love that alter ego exercise, and the exercise of exercising your conscious belief about yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you always have to be doing that. Like, never, ever stop. And that's what builds confidence. People are like, why are you so confident? I'm like, I always have a coach. I always have somebody that's pushing me. I found a partner that sees me for who I want to become and is pushing me in that direction and pouring into me in that way. And it's the experimentation. Life is a big experiment,
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. Are we twins? Because well, we're definitely soul sisters. So many things you're saying. I think about all the time. I talk about it with people. The reason I'm doing this physics, and I keep hearing my leather, so I hope that you can't hear.
My chairs are rocking too. It's fine. I'm getting excited.
Okay. The reason this whole experiment idea is, and I haven't always been like, yeah, life's an experiment, because I'm very much a perfectionist and I have let things that hold me back a lot in life. But just recently, I've really been looking at life like that. And it's the reason I'm opening a physical space. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't have to even work out. Like, if I will get a year lease, if at the end of the lease, if I'm like, oh, I hate this, I'm moving on to something else. It's an experiment. And if you look at life in that way, you take chances and you can, it's just so freeing.
It's so good. I'm so excited for you. I was actually just editing an episode with that we did previously with Kanitha Porter, excuse me, Kanitha. I don't know if you met her. She's a member at Bamboo too, but she's got Amore Women. And she said something about everything in life is in beta phase. Everything's in beta. Everything is changeable. Nothing is concrete. Nothing is set in stone. And ever since she said that, it's kind of been in my brain. I'm like, okay, like I make a post that looks stupid. Okay. You know, like I do a thing, it doesn't work. Okay. Like I'll just do something else next time or try something different next time. But again, like it sounds easy for me because I've been doing it for so long. I would say I probably started acting this way like in my early 20s. Like I haven't been like this my whole life.
Yeah.
But like 19, 20, 21 is when like I left my abusive relationship and like really made a huge psychological mental shift.
Wow.
But it's been, you know, so now it's been like 15 years. So I've been practicing at this. I've had a lot of time. So for me, it sounds easy to just get out there and look stupid and try something weird and take a big risk. But like it can start small with like just glitter.
Yes.
Glitter.
Yeah, exactly. Know? Yeah. It's like, who are you and what sparks your soul? And then design your life. Like you are this is my biggest thing. I've always been very intentional of a person about my life, but, you know, and eventually I will help people one-on-one with this if they want, but, you know, designing your life is such an important, you need to be the star of your story. You have one life to live as far as we know. You need to be the star, and the star, being a star doesn't stop when you're 50 because you're getting old. No, it's like, who am I now? And yeah, I can reinvent myself, reimagine myself. It's not like you're faking it. You're going to figure out what's calling to you still, what needs to come out, because so Carl Jung, psychologist from, you know, everyone knows Carl Jung, I think, but I was trying to think, what's his title? But he talks about how the first half of life is really focused on, okay, getting to the next step. I went to school. What does the world want from me? Okay, I get a job. I do the things that society, my parents have told me the world wants from me. The second half of life, and it makes it really exciting to look forward to, is all about saying, what does my soul ask of me? And how will I step into my largeness? And that is so, like, I have the chills saying it still.
Like, I'm feeling it in my soul. Like I'm feeling, yes, that is where I think I am in my life right now. I think I've like, I had a friend ask me years ago, like, why are you so motivated? And it was always an external thing. It was like, because I want to make my family proud, because you know, I want to do this, or I want to do that, or I want to like break generational curses, or like for a long time for me, I don't know if you know this about me, but like right after I left that abusive relationship, I found out I was pregnant, and I made a very tough decision to have an abortion because it felt like a trap. And not that it was or wasn't, or not that it was malicious or intentional, but I'd finally gotten out, and I finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and then I saw another tunnel. And I was like, I have to choose my life or the life of my child for the rest of my life with my abuser. That was the options. And I had decided, I was like, I'm going to choose my life, but I got to choose a life worth living. And it's got to be something of value and of substance. And for so long, it was, I'm choosing me because I had to make this decision to not choose my child. And so it was always outside of me, just outside, still internal, but just outside of me, just enough to separate the me from the me. And I think right now I'm like, what do I want for the sake of me? Just because, you know?
Right. Just because. Why do we feel, and especially as women, that we need to validate our choices or our decisions with or who we want to be by, how the external, it's so extrinsic. Yeah.
Right. Oh my goodness. We're at an hour. I don't even know how that happened.
We
I was
are.
like, we want to talk about this. I want to talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Because I have some final questions for you. So
Okay.
really quickly, what is your top 2 or top 1 or 3, whatever feels comfortable, piece of advice for the people that might be listening, whether it's people in your audience, people in mine, people that have never met us before?
The biggest piece of advice I would have is to, that's hard to pick, but surrounding yourself with people who want to grow with you, who are in this positive space. Let me try to wrap this up a little bit. So,
absolutely. Take your time. We got time.
Okay. So having a positive outlook on aging, there's this study by Dr. Becca Levy from Yale, and there's a whole book on it, Breaking the Aging Code. I haven't even read the whole book yet. It's on my list of many books about aging. But so they say that if you can reframe your perspective on aging to a positive outlook, you are actually going to add 7.5 years to your life. It trumps, I don't want to even say that word, but it overtakes like stopping smoking or starting exercising. It adds more life to your years than those things. So it's a huge factor, all about changing your language, changing, the whole perspective on aging. So I think that's, I guess, the most important thing to do. And second, I have to do 2 because this is an important part too. The number 2, the most valuable thing you can do is social wellness, is to create a community. And I'm not just saying that because I have a community. It's actually, there's a lot of, literature on this. And they say by getting a community or working on your friendships in your 50s gives you a more positive experience in your 80s. I forget. I have this written somewhere.
Love that though.
Yeah. Anyways, it's just a very important part. Surrounding yourself with like-minded people. And it's not about toxic positivity. It's about just reframing to an optimistic outlook.
Yeah. And I just want to talk about toxic positivity because once in my life, somebody had brought it up in a staff meeting at a previous role and kind of looked at me and it made me question. I'm like, am I toxically positive or am I reframing and being optimistic? So let's just debunk that real quick. The positive mindset really mean.
Right. I think, and I have in my community a whole article on this. Let's see if I can tap into it. But basically, the toxic positivity is when you're denying reality, or somebody is saying, I'm really upset because I feel depressed. Menopause is making me depressed. It's going to be okay. It's denying someone's experience. That's toxic positivity, where optimism is all about feeling your feelings all of the way and then reframing and trying to shift your perspective with a optimistic outlook. Okay, so it's feeling your feelings all the way and maintaining hope. That is optimism. Where toxic positivity is denying your feelings and pretending everything's going to be okay, or
something of that nature. Yeah, I really like that.
That's my off the cuff.
Yeah, no, I feel that. So some of you know that have been watching for a little while, I'm reading a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, and it talks, so the author, I can't remember the name of the author. I can pull it up really quick. But the author originally was a plastic surgeon, and he was finding all of these like commonalities between people who wanted to change their physical looks to have a different life outcome, and was trying to find a way to get people to change it before changing how their physical appearance. Like, can we change the brain before we change the body? That's kind of the study of psycho-cybernetics. So that's where he came from. And then the study of psycho-cybernetics is how machines function. So like a car or like a toaster oven or a brain. And in the psycho-cybernetics part, it's the way the brain functions as a machine for the soul. And so it's talking about train your brain as a machine to activate the things that you really want to do. So it's been very, very interesting. And I'm obsessed with it. I'm like, I'm re-listening and listening to chapters over and over again. And so I'm on chapter 7 right now. And it's literally called, You Can Acquire the Habit of Happiness. How happiness is a practice. It's something that has to be chosen. It's something that has to be done. And I had a life coach tell me once, and he was telling me that, like, if you don't practice happiness, let's say you practice stress and worry all the time, and you're looking forward to a vacation, what kind of energy do you think you're going to have on the vacation? If you're not practicing happiness, you're going to be stressed and worried on vacation. You're not going to be happy. And in this book, it's talking about, to what end do we put happiness on a pedestal? When I get the job, when I look this way, when I get this thing, or become married, or have a kid, or get the house, or get the job. If we put it off and consistently put it off, when we get there, we're not going to know how to be happy, So it's just like working out. And I think I recently talked about this, but happiness is a practice. It's a muscle. Confidence is a practice and a muscle, like diligence and hard work, same thing. But wellness and rest is also a practice. That's something I'm working with now. How do I rest more whole, like fully, I guess is the better way to put it.
Okay.
Stress, worry that I'm not doing something I'm supposed to because I'm supposed to be resting.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I think when I think of happiness and how, because people are wired a certain way. So if you're not necessarily, I think I'm wired for optimism and I practice it. Some people are not wired, but they need to practice it and make it a part of their life. But I think gratitude is the biggest one, because when everything is horrible, like things, we've all gone through some shit. Okay. And when things are at their worst, no matter how like sad or horrible I feel, I always feel grateful. I always feel grateful for what I don't know. That's a big one.
That's a big one for me too. And I just want to comment on the wired thing. Like you might be shocked by me saying this, but I don't believe that I was originally wired for happiness. As a young person, I don't know if you know this either, but at like 11, 12, I was on alcohol and narcotics probation. Like full-blown adult probation. I was peeing in a cup once a week. I was going to AA meetings, NA meetings. I had to go with my dad because I was a minor. But as a young person, my first reaction to most stressful situations was anger. Anger was my first emotive style. And I found myself in relationships that were abusive and explosive, but both parties were, and I was just as explosive and loud and spewing negativity as my partner was. We were a reflection of each other. And I remember, like my partners at the time were calling me crazy, psycho, this, every single bad word you can think of. And I was doing the things to justify those kinds of names. And I remember I was doing a lot of like inner work, and I had, I was going on my self-love journey. I was dating myself, trying to figure stuff out. I started acting and modeling and hosting events and like doing leadership courses and trying to like grow into a woman and figure out who I was. And I was making all these changes. And I remember when I met Labrie, and I remember my husband, my now husband, and I remember the first time he met my little sister, and she meant so much good by this, but she was like, my one piece of advice for you is never wake her up from a nap because she will bite. And be careful. There was like a be careful because she will ... whatever the case may be. My poor sister, we shared a room. She saw the worst of me, and she now we get to share the best of each other. But I remember in that moment being like, that's not who I am anymore. Like, I'm not that person anymore. And but that was the version of me that she had experienced, and she was giving him some real good advice.
Right.
Never wake up from a nap, but being with someone like Labrie, who his general like mannerism, like when he gets frustrated or angry, is to get softer and more quiet. And I'm not used to that. And the first time we ever got into a disagreement, because it wasn't even an argument, I remember bracing myself for impact. We had just moved to Texas, and I just dropped my life and moved in with this man and left my family. I was like, this is great. And then we had this disagreement. And I remember like locking myself in the bathroom because that's autopilot. I used to do that with my last several partners, and previous partners would knock the door down, like take it off the wall. And I just remember sitting in the bathroom on the floor, bracing myself for impact, just saying like, okay, now we're this is the real relationship now. We're going into it, bracing for impact, getting ready to like scream my head off. And then there's nothing. There's no noise. There's no sound. And I was like, where's the singing? Where's the yelling? Where's the this? Where's that? And I took a deep breath in, and I like got the courage to open the door. And this was like, it was a bathroom in our bedroom. And he's laying on the bed on his belly with his hands like this.
Oh my gosh.
Waiting for me to come out. And he's like, are you okay?
Wow.
I was like, I need to see it. I remember closing the bathroom going, okay, that was very different than I was expecting it to be. And I was like, how do I have to show up and match the energy? I was like,
I was going to say, yeah.
So I was like, I need to go take a walk. He's like, do you want me to come with you? I'll stay, I'll wait, I'll sit by the door. I was like, I'm going to go. I'll be right back. I took a walk, and I was like, he is not fighting the way I am expecting him to fight. And I need to show up like his partner and like the human that he is. And I remember coming back and telling him this, and he like puts me in his lap. He's 6'4". I'm a big woman, but he's bigger than me. So he's like, sit, he's like, come close. And he's whispering to me. He's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I am not accustomed to this behavior. Like, no. I don't know what to do right now. And I don't know how to, but like you said, surrounding yourself with people that see the best in you, that are going to push the best out of you and support that version of you coming out. Like, that man taught me so much. I always say he's the happy one in the couple. Like, people see me and they're like, you're so happy. And I'm like, you should meet Labrie, because he's just this like beautiful soul. But I just remember that being a super transformative moment for me, because I was like, okay, he's going to see the girl that my sister warned him about.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, no, you get to show up however you want.
Wow. That is such an amazing story and such a gift. And it's like the power of exchanging energy and how that goes. But I have emotional dysregulation myself. Like I am a very happy, positive person, bright, shiny person everywhere. But I can go exactly what you're saying. I can have some rage, and it is emotional dysregulation. As I got older, I learned that I had ADHD just a few years ago, and I mean, everything so much made sense. But that anger and that emotional dysregulation, it depends on who you're with, how that's going to go. And
Right.
that's beautiful. Wow.
But we're
Yeah.
constantly working on it. Like, and that's something, we could do a whole nother hour on this and
I
I
know.
won't.
I know. I
But
was just thinking, I have so much to say about that.
the reality of it is, like, we're all multidimensional. We all have the full range of emotion, whether you're naturally optimistic, pessimistic, realistic, whether you're like quick to rage, quick to sadness, quick to happy, whatever the case may be. We all have the full range. And those bright and shiny stars have shadows. There are shadows to the self. There are other sides of the emotion. Obviously, we put out the best, the most positive version of ourselves, but there's other sides to that coin, and it takes the work it takes the work, and I catch myself all the time, and I'm trying to be better about it. It just happened yesterday. Like, I had a long day. I'm pouring into people. We're pouring into each other. I go to my parents. I'm pouring into them and helping them. And then I come home at 10 o'clock at night and I see my husband, this beautiful, wonderful man, just at the door waiting to see me. And I complaining
Mhm.
instead of being like, "Hi, how are you? How was your day?" And pouring into him too. Because all he wants to do is pour. He's like, "How's your day? Tell me."
Aw.
He always goes, "Tell me something good." And I'm like, and then I snapped and had an attitude about something he couldn't control,
Yeah.
and reflecting on it now, I'm like, now I have to go confront that and apologize to him. That's always big for me. Like, I want to
Yeah.
acknowledge that I was being an asshole, and these are the reasons why I believe that I was doing that, and tell me the other reasons why you feel. And he's usually like, I wasn't even. He always says, "There's no chip in my system." He says that all the time. He's like, "I'm not." He's like, "I'm not even mad about that. I didn't even realize." But because I'm trying to work on it, I'm constantly like, okay, I realize that I did this, this, and this, and I'm so sorry about that. I'm going to work on these things, and taking a break or taking a breath. But it takes so much work, but it's worth it. It's worth
It
it.
is. And even before the work, it takes self-awareness. And not everyone has self-awareness. They just kind of have blinders on and let life take them where they will, instead of like evaluating their own behavior and what they want out of their life. Again, with the being intentional and doing the work.
Oh,
Yeah. Showing
so
up
good.
as stars of your story.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah. We could go on. I'm in my mind, I'm like energy, I'm like love languages, all the things like
yes, all of it. We didn't even touch on like beauty and fashion and like healthy. What did you call it? Healthy vanity. I love that.
yes.
We'll do a part 2. How about
I
that? When your
know.
door's open, we'll do a part 2.
Yeah. Aging parents. There's like so much about aging. We will do a part 2. But I loved this. I love this. Thank you for being my first amazing. I knew I would be safe in your hands, and it's an honor to be with you. You are just a dynamo, and I adore you.
I adore you too. I'm so happy that you came back into my life, and in the season that I'm in, I feel like it was divinely timed. I'm so happy to see you launching another program and opening up your doors, and I can't wait to help and support you and all of the things. Like, I'm so grateful that you're in my life when you were and when you are now. Like, both times pivotal for me and important. So I'm really, really grateful. And thank you for spending time with us this morning. Before we go, tell everybody where to find you.
Oh, yes. And thank you, Amanda. I feel all those things about you, really. And I can't wait to connect in person here and like do a follow up. I love you. So they can find me on bloomified.life. Right now, I will be developing that website more. Right now, it's more of like kind of tells you about what the community is about. So www.bloomified.life. And Instagram, I'm andreaclegg.corp. It's my personal Instagram for now. And then LinkedIn, Andrea Clegg Corp.
I love it. Thank you again, Andrea. Again, what a beautiful conversation. I can't wait for it to continue and to spark conversations for other people that are watching this, because we need to be talking about this.
Yes.
Again, Thank you all so much for joining the Let's Glow show. A couple quick notes for you. We are bringing the revamped clothing swaps back. Our next clothing swap is on May 11th at Bamboo and Royal Oak. So get all your clothes ready, stuff all those bags of the stuff that you don't want anymore. We're going to declutter and we're going to give back to the community. We are currently on the hunt for more brand ambassadors. So what's a brand ambassador? It's somebody who likes to make content, that loves fashion, sustainable fashion, and community service. So our brand ambassadors volunteer for us on the day of the clothing swaps, and you get all the free clothes that you want, and we feed you, and it's a good time. And then you also model for our marketing. So we're on the hunt for brand ambassadors. Our next photo shoot is coming up next weekend, April 6th on Saturday. So hit me up or go to the revamp.co and go to the ambassador page to apply. We can't wait to see you there. Thank you again so much for watching the Let's Glow show, and we'll be back next week with another amazing entrepreneur. Thank you so much, Amanda Sweet, the Creative Fairy Godmother, and Andrea Corp out.
You are so cool. I love you.